without have no soul.
back in its place above all sectarian or religious identity, and this is the biggest national victory. I'm not asking you to stop protesting or
frozen at this moment, but when we get the opportunity,
we'll be on.
We will be on.
Is audio working?
Yeah, audio's working. Alright, it killed everything, so let's do this. If we can do this. Contributor appreciation. The computer is frozen, but we're going to try to bring that back. Welcome to the Soapbox. Hello everyone, this is Contributor Appreciation. Welcome to the Soapbox. I have Mrs. Thomas with me today. Welcome, welcome. Couldn't do it yesterday.
Bienvenue, thank you.
Was heavily involved in a bit of mindless television that took a bit of priority over the show for 12 hours. I'm not bitter about it. I'm just bringing it up. And I have a history of being honest
Salty much?
about my bitterness when I bring that up.
Salty, bitter.
There's no saltiness. There's no saltiness. And we are frozen.
We are having a little bit of slowdown.
All right, there we are.
Okay.
Now it's trying to come back. All right.
Looks good.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. Apparently, my system is trying to crap out on me.
When he puts the countdown up, he's working in the background. So he's pulling up videos, making notations, all that good stuff, which is why the jazz plays. So you guys get a heads up of when the video is going to come on. But I think he was pulling up a video, and
Here we are.
I don't know what it sounded like for you guys, but they were like, they heard like heavy breathing or something like
it's like
that.
They're trying
and
to get a
like,
quickie behind the scenes.
That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
They say the visual is a little glitchy, but the audio is good. So it should even out because we are speeding back up. But he's got like a bajillion different windows open at one time.
And I gotta be honest, I don't know what all these are. All right. So it tries to open some of the windows back up. All right. So let's do the news. I'm going to let you give the spiel that we typically give. I'm glad you can join us. I tend to like the shows when you can be here for contributor appreciation. Because, for me, the appreciation show is a little bit different. I don't necessarily like to have an exact same feel of either the radio show or the other show. And when there's another presence, it makes it just different.
A little bit of variety. Switch it up a little bit. Another perspective. Because everybody pretty much knows where you stand.
More or less.
But if you didn't know, every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Jamarl is live at a local radio station, 93.9 WRWK, The Work FM.
Right on.
Here in Chesterfield.
Right
They were laughing because I did a little commercial clip for him to play in the background so that he can get other things done. And it came up while he was doing the live show, and they were like, "Oh, that's Aisha's voice." I thought that was funny.
Well, it's an awesome clip. She did an awesome job. So think of it like, so for the radio show, you're gone for like 2 hours. And there are breakups, but you're doing the breakups, so there's like no break in the 2 hours. And so in real shows, they would have commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And so my thing was, all right, well, if we had a commercial break, they could just say this as opposed to a human being doing it over and over again.
Because at first I made one like for the visual, for a YouTube visual. So it was just something for you guys to look at. But then he was like, well, what are the people on the radio going to hear? And so that's when I recorded the whole WRWK, listening, the little commercial kind of thing. So that was kind of cool. But we are still recovering for some slowness. He's closing some things in the background. So we are just kind of chilling and letting everybody get here on the live stream.
Now, if you want, you can explain this is about.
That's what I'm getting into. I got this.
My bad.
This is my only job for being here on the show.
That's not true.
I'm joking. Kind of. All right. So if you are here and you're enjoying the content, if you're excited about today's show, give it a thumbs up.
Does your battery deliver extra life or extra power?
Giving the show
Extra life. Extra power.
Little algorithm.
Extra life.
Let people know that we
Good
are
news.
live,
Stop
and
the box. New
so
Duracell.
we get more people here on the live stream. Today is the weekly contributor appreciation show, where once a week Jamarl takes the time to do one video specifically fueled by what you all want to hear. As a thank you for people who contribute through Patreon, through PayPal, through Live, through Super Chat, through Streamlabs, and for everybody who is subscribed and just hitting the like button. That is what today's show is designed to do as a big thank you. It started as patron appreciation, and so once a week on the Patreon platform, a post goes out and says, what do you want to hear for this week from Jamarl? And you submit your topic suggestions. He pulls from that list, and that is how we get the content for today's show. If you are not familiar with Patreon is a platform that allows you as a viewer to say, okay, cool, I like Jamal's channel or whoever the creator's channel is, and I want to make sure they can continue to create content. And so I'm going to commit to giving them a monetary contribution once a month, as little as $1, and as little as $1 actually does help. So that's what
even $1 helps.
Right. That's what Patreon platform is. So if you're not and you like the content and you come back often, consider being a patron. If you're not giving through monetary means, we are still, and he is still very happy and appreciative to have you here. If you enjoy the content, subscribe. Make sure that you hit the notification icon so that when new videos are uploaded, you'll know so that you don't miss anything. And if you do enjoy the videos that you're watching, give it a thumbs up button. And every now and then, Aisha Thomas, Hollingsworth Thomas, Mrs. Thomas, all of my aliases, I pop in every now and then.
Hollingsworth Thomas.
So
It was only because I felt weird about this notion of her donning my last name. I thought it was unfair. Like, if I was in the opposite scenario, I wouldn't.
that is
I don't know
not
if I would
why.
do that.
I mean, you made it seem like
it was a deeply.
I'm allowing you to hyphenate your name because I don't want you to take my name. It wasn't your choice. I decided I want to be hyphenated because my last name is better than yours. That's how that happened.
I think the last name is a bit bougie and pretentious.
My last name, my
personally.
maiden name, is Hollingsworth.
Bougie and pretentious. Thomas.
And
Was
he was too much of
better name.
something, I can't think of the word right now, to take my last name. He wanted to do that.
Oh, that's nonsense. That won't happen.
So it's hyphenated. But that is not because
Here's the thing. There are
he
elements-
allowed me and he felt bad about it. It didn't have anything to do with you. It's what I fucking decided.
Okay, I feel you.
So shout out to that. Sorry if you hear our dog in the background.
Yeah, I felt some kind of way about it. He's eating, right? What's wrong with him?
He's spoiled.
Oh,
He just
okay.
wants some attention. I don't know.
All right, so let's get to the first few elements. Did anything happen in the news that I'm not thinking about that is in your orbit of, where you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I'm shocked that happened. That's interesting that happened. And that I haven't necessarily said anything about it.
No.
Nothing at all. Your entire world is dominated by me. That's
That
impressive.
is an overstatement of the century. No, but I haven't really been, I've been working on my little side project thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really been on social media as much the last couple of weeks and checking out the news.
Okay, fair enough. So let's start with contributors, because there are some of the stories that the contributors are asking about that is dovetailing with the videos that I had already pulled up. Not just already pulled up, that were up yesterday, and I just couldn't think of a byline to use for it. So I appreciate you giving me the byline. Probably the things that were slowing down my system.
Just a heads up, if you didn't know, when I'm looking down, I'm looking at my phone because I'm trying to keep track of the comments here in the chat. So the ones that pop out, or if you guys give super chats, then I can catch those right away and we can try to cover them while we are still on topic. So this week I just want to say this week for Patreon, so I've been trying something new to have the post on Patreon do an auto upload. I don't think it worked correctly this week. I guess that's the reason we only got one person that commented.
What do you mean auto upload?
Well, it's like a scheduled upload. Mm-hmm. So I can say every Friday at noon, the post goes up. So I don't have to go in and manually do it.
I see.
But when I looked on Sunday or Saturday, I didn't see any comments. So I made another one. I don't know. Anyways, it's kind of funny because Michael Williams actually generated all of our content for today.
Are you serious? That's
because
funny.
he posted like back to back. So shout out to you again, Michael Williams, because this is not the first time that we have had a contributor appreciation show. By the way, that day it did post on time, but he was the only person for that day that.
So he's on it.
Yeah, Michael Williams. Shout out to you.
And by the way,
He's on
also
it.
you can send emails.
JamarlBiz@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Also, if you are, and again, we are just kind of going through all of this introduction while we allow more people to join the live stream. So bear with us. We're going to get started in just a second. But also, if you send messages through Patreon, I would just like to apologize, or we would like to apologize, because Patreon is. Most people tell us that they don't communicate through Patreon. They say they don't log in. They just submit or sign up, and then they never go back on. And so we only check that usually once a week.
It's like periodically.
Right. When the post goes up, and we check to see what people have responded and said to that post. So if you have sent a message through Patreon and your message has not been responded to like in the next day or the next 3 days, we apologize. That is checked once weekly. So send an email to Jamal if you need a response from him.
Yeah.
And it's usually me checking it on Patreon.
Yeah. Not to mention I'm kind of bad at that. I mean, I tend to focus more so on the news.
Patrick Seguin, thank you for the first super chat of the show. He says, Bernie Sanders just defended Tulsi on Twitter.
Yes!
Is that our first one?
Let's find that.
Okay, let's do that one, and then thank you for that, patron. Garden Gnome, thank you for that. Garden Gnome didn't leave a comment, but he did give a super chat, so thank you for that. So we're going to pull up the chat from that Patrick Seguin just gave us. Bernie Sanders just defending Tulsi on Twitter. So we're going to pull that up, and then we're going to go to the first topics. Rab S27 says Jamarl Hollingsworth.
Sorry, dude. Too much of a man for that.
You're not feeling it?
Too much of a man for that.
Hollingsworth name is just like...
It's not. It's pretentious.
It's the bomb.
I'm trying to find Nina Turner on Twitter. Good morning, sister. Tulsi Gabbard. Where is it? Patrick, I wish you would have sent that link.
Even if he had... Oh, you could have gotten it. Well, while you're doing that...
Well, let's just look up Sanders. I mean, if it came from him, then it should have came from him. I look at society, culture, that stuff. Yeah, it's not really real. They're just myths that we kind of get accustomed to and so forth. And so this notion of a man donning his name upon the woman almost as a thing of ownership, it harkens back to patriarchy.
Trudy, don't be correcting me.
It harkens back to patriarchy.
Oh, sorry.
Now, in harking back to patriarchy, however, it is still culture. And those things are still driven into your head. And there are things that you accept and you don't.
Like what? What are we talking about?
My point is, this notion of the guy taking the woman's name. There are some men that can do that.
Do. You ain't one of them.
I ain't one of them.
That's fine.
I ain't one of them. I may have qualms about notions of fairness of, oh, God, it's unfair for her to have to take the name, that type of stuff. But that works both ways.
Nunya Beeswax says, crap, it adds more gravitas than plain old Thomas. Yeah.
It does have gravitas.
Plus, I kind of feel like if you've never thought about it, so I have 3 older brothers. I am the only girl. So when I get married, I'll lose my name. My brothers will marry these women and they'll get my name. Not these women. You know what I'm saying? But like, I feel some kind of way because like, I love my last name. Anyways,
it's like
so Trudy corrected me.
Yeah.
Trudy corrected me because I'm mispronouncing patron versus Patreon.
Oh, right. Patreon.
So Patreon is the platform. A patron is a person that donates through the Patreon platform. Apparently, this is messing with Trudy and somebody else. Trudy says it drives her nuts.
Oh, right. Because people say patron all the time. Yeah.
Patron.
Yeah. I feel you, Trudy.
Patron.
It's like my name, Jamarl. There's an R in it. People always ignore the R.
Is there an R?
There's an R.
Wow.
People don't typically know. Shout out to Bernie Sanders, who's renewed my faith in good things. Tulsi Gabbard has put her life on the line to defend this country. People can disagree on issues, but it is outrageous for anyone to suggest that Tulsi is a foreign asset. The person's name was not mentioned. Hillary Clinton.
For anyone.
I love it.
This
is awesome. Look, my point in saying, how can he not defend her, was because of Tulsi burned it all for him. And that letter that Hillary Clinton sent was absolutely unhinged. But again, it was for him. It was for him. Now, my thought was, this is politics, right? It's language. You can craft language. You're paying people. Craft language that gets across what you need to while not mentioning what you don't. Perfect.
He was not a name dropper.
Perfect. Tulsi Gabbard has put her life on the line to defend this country. People can disagree on issues, but it is outrageous for anyone to suggest she is a foreign asset. The name that will go unmentioned, like the character in Harry Potter, Clinton. Because there are a lot of people who hate his guts for getting into that last race, and the last harpies that he wants to piss off are Clinton supporters. Oh, he's sexist for defending Tulsi Gabbard. You know she's a woman, right? Fuck you, man. You just hate her. For all those people who say Bernie didn't have the guts to defend her, well, there you go.
He did say a little something.
He said something to defend her. Thank you. Just saying.
Rab says the heart attack has actually woke Bernie up.
I hope that was true. I hope that's true. I honestly hope that's true. And for people who say, and some of them have come out, look at it at the bottom, this woman. Very cute picture. I don't like this comment though. They're going to use her support for you and your connection to her as a way to smear you as a Russian asset, Senator. Please be prepared. The only thing he said was Tulsi Gabbard has put her life on the line to defend this country. That's a flat fact true. People can disagree on issues. Again, flat fact true, but it is outrageous to suggest that the woman who is literally a major in our military currently is a foreign asset.
Slap in the face.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face. It's a disgusting smear. And it's not even McCarthy. I mean, it's worse than McCarthyism because there's no there to it. It's all because of her foreign policy. Tulsi Gabbard says, hey, let's get out of Syria. Let's stop regime change wars. That's her favorite thing. Not in Kashmir. She's all go in Kashmir. She doesn't want to say anything about that. But in Syria, let's stop these regime change wars. And people like Clinton and all of these other neocons say, well, she wants to get our troops out of those foreign countries illegally. And because she wants to do that, she is helping Vladimir Putin and Assad and Iran and whoever else we declare as an enemy.
Yeah.
And so bringing our troops home out of an area to which they are illegally occupying is equivalent to them as supporting those regimes. You know who she didn't have to mention? Any of the names. I didn't have to mention any of the leaders' names to say, I want my troops home. I want my troops home. We are there in those countries illegally. Everything that I just said was flat fact true, unless America has made a rule set unto itself that says it can invade wherever it wants. That doesn't work on international law. And the wild part is media just pretends that that's not the case. Media pretends that everything I've just said, that we're in Syria illegally. The Russians aren't. The Iranians aren't. They're there legally.
Right.
Just like we have our political ties with these totalitarian regimes of Saudi Arabia, well, other countries have their ties. We are in Syria illegally. We are taking the oil in Syria and are defending the area and trying to keep the oil in Syria. Think about that. The area that the United States has been screaming breathlessly about, the Kurds, the Kurds, the Kurds. You know, some of the people who are killing the Kurds now, we were backing when they were trying to take down Assad. Did you know that? That's amazing, right? How they can change the names of these people depending upon what they need to get across. And, oh, the bleeding hearts for the Kurds. The Kurds, look, they're working with Assad now in order to take that land back. That's in Syria and that belongs to Syria. And now Trump is saying, we're going to move these troops from Syria to Iraq. Hey, I got the troops out. It's fucking nonsense. And B, we're going to save a little bit of troops back to steal the oil. We're going to steal the oil from Syria.
Have they...
The resources from Syria should belong in Syria. That's where I'm at. Bring our troops home. That's none of our business. Let the Russians do the piecemeal work, since Russia was an ally of Assad going back to like the 80s or 70s or whatever. Meaning, it makes all the sense in the world for two allies to broker peace in a region to which all of them border and belong. The Kurds are trying to create this thing of Rojava, but that's a basic point for Kurdistan, which from the standpoint of the other nations, it cuts into their area. So they see these guys as terrorists. Now, the catch here is they are in Syria. If they would have worked with Assad, none of this would have happened. Like this incursion and everything else by Turkey into Syrian territory. The question becomes, is there a war? Does Syria take back their land that Turkey has invaded, and does Turkey give it up without a fight? The Russians apparently are now in Syria.
Yeah.
Meaning, it's their ally. Of course they're going to back their ally. All sorts of shit may pop off as a result of what Donald Trump has done. But my point is, we're stealing their oil.
Kevin Moore says, no permanent allies, just permanent interests.
Yeah, that's all there is. I mean, look, the Tillerson memo that was written when Trump took office explained very basically, in stark terms, U.S. foreign policy and what it always has been. We work with things that are in our interests. Period. Noam Chomsky would say the exact same thing. U.S. interests boils down to what is in U.S. interests. That's our foreign policy. Humanitarian reasons are given. It says it in a memo. But in reality, we attack people who are not our allies. We back up people who are our allies, regardless of what those people and how their governments are. We turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia. We turn a blind eye to Erdogan. We turn a blind eye to these things because they're our allies. China, Iran. Oh, the humanitarian crisis. It's the way politics is. It's disgusting. There's no reality to it, per se. It's just, who do we like? Who do we don't like? Think about how you were in school. You had these cliques. Were any of the cliques good, per se? No, they were just cliques. They had interests. And based on their interests, this guy's with us, so we were going to back this guy. Now, if that guy gets out of line, per se, maybe if there's enough political pressure, but all things being equal, This guy gets deboned by our ally. And Trump, when asked about it, was like, the guy wasn't American, was he? And then he turns around and he says, how much money is Saudi Arabia spending on?
I do remember that.
You know, like, that is stark terms. He will get on and scream at the high heaven about Iran. They've just deboned the guy. And the sad part is, all of the hysteria that we were seeing when we were traveling, think back. You may not have been paying attention to the news when we were traveling, but every country we went to, top news, Khashoggi got deboned, and the body was essentially, taken out with a bone saw. Everywhere we went, Egypt, Dubai, all of those countries, even when you went to Europe, same thing. That was front page story.
I remember that.
Saudi Arabia, working with the U.S., had been bombing and killing and starving Yemenis up to the hundreds of thousands for years up to that point. They were flipping out about one guy. And I understand it's a mob hit. It's painful. The notion he was getting his fingers cut off and all this other stuff. And I would imagine some guy screaming at him in some language. Like, you assaulted the crowd. That's some just brutish guy. And it was like 18 guys or whatever, like this huge number in order to take this one guy down. And then the funny part came out. They said, look, this really wasn't our fault. We were only there to apprehend him and bring them back to the kingdom. He put up a fight. 18 goons is in that room. Their argument, he put up a fight. They bought a bone saw with them. They didn't find a bone saw. Like, this wasn't like, all right, we're having a mad scramble in the embassy for a bone saw because Khashoggi knows karate.
Yeah.
That's not what this was. This was bone saw, chopping off fingers, like, you assaulted the crowd, that type of stuff. While his wife waits outside for her man.
I know. I remember that one.
Honestly, I think that's the part that stings. I think the story is bad, but that's the part. Because you have a woman who wants to marry him. And for issues of love, he goes to the embassy just to get the card that he needs. And they are waiting for him in that embassy.
I remember that.
He knows what's going to happen to him, by the way. Or at the very least, he
had an idea.
And so
that
he knew the risk.
Safe. Yeah.
But he did it because he loved that woman he wanted to marry.
You wouldn't have went in there for me, babe.
Yes, I would have. I would have went in armed. I would have had knives. I would have practiced karate and all sorts of shit, Krav Maga, for the year prior. But yeah, I would have found some way around it. Oh, fuck, we went over to Iceland or something. Iceland doesn't care. Iceland gives you a marriage certificate. So it doesn't matter.
So one of the things that Michael Williams requested in line with this, because I didn't know if there was a more formal response that you wanted to give, because he asked what was the official update on what's going on in Kashmir.
Yeah. So right now, they were shelling in Kashmir. So just in case you don't know, just as a mini backstory to what's taking place in Kashmir, Modi has taken political actions in order to revoke, I think it's called Article 370 or Article 320, but ultimately it's the article that allows Kashmir a certain autonomy. It's the only Muslim province that's under India's auspices. It's a disputed territory. That's the first point. Thanks, Brits. There's always a Brit somewhere that's fucked something up because of Masters of the World War I. We're still living in the context of that war. Even the first issue, Syria, same thing. Kurds, same thing. Like, Kurds at one point in the First World War, and I'll go back to it, I promise, were able to go into the various territories under the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, at that point, for the most part, they were empire. The Ottoman Empire decides to get into the First World War because they want additional conquests. Germany wanted additional colonies. Well, to be fair, for the First War, it wasn't colonies. Germany's was back. This was Archduke and all this other stuff. Germany was backing up their ally, Austrian-Hungarian Empire, who essentially just wanted more land and they wanted to teach Serbia a lesson.
You're saying the Kurds never had a country because they're nomadic.
The Kurds never had a country, right? They were nomadic. I guess my point. I know this gets into weeds, but think of it just sort of at the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire having an empire, and you have all sorts of groups that float around through these, what we consider today, various countries. But they didn't have a country. Right. And they had this thing, what they have in their heads called Kurdistan, that after the war, when these things were broken up into Iran, Syria, Turkey, there's one more. Syria. Did I say Syria?
You said Syria.
Iran, Turkey, Syria, there's another one. But I'm just saying, when those countries were broken up, you had a Kurdistan population through all four of those countries. And Kurds were like, why is there a border here? Now, understand what that means. The moment that you say, why is there a border here? Well, a border is a legal thing,
right,
not a physical thing. And so just because they ignored the border or the line that was drawn on the line, thanks, Brits. Well, just because they're ignoring it, you are breaching borders of other countries and pretending as if those borders don't exist. So in their heads, they have this idea of Kurdistan. They want to create a project where Kurdistan gets their own land. But that means to carve out all of these other nations in order to get that, because otherwise there's no way for that to work. In Syria, the United States took over a certain area that were backed by the Kurds. And they came up with this notion of a Syrian Defense Force. And this Syrian Defense Force was fighting ISIS. Yeah, it's all of those things in quotes. And then they come out and say they beat ISIS, missing the point that Assad, Syria, and the Iranians beat ISIS. These guys were there in order to assist in knocking over Assad. Like, don't misunderstand me. There was an element of this that was overt, where the U.S. was working with these guys in order to fight ISIS. But the other element of this was clandestine activities, and many of the weapons that these guys were getting were just being taken. There was reports from the Independent that showed that the armaments and the capabilities on the battlefield by ISIS far exceeded what it should have been if they were just taking weapons off the battlefield, meaning Qatar, Turkey, and the U.S. were arming these guys. Even the Brits were arming these guys and funneling weapons to these guys. Not to mention the terrorists themselves that they were using to brutally and just knock down Assad. You didn't think it was weird that every time Trump comes in office, says we're going to stop arming the terrorists. That's the first point. And then every time Trump says we're going to get out of Syria, something happens.
right.
That gets him further involved. It was always a perspective, per se, of the U.S., especially intelligence assets, that regardless of what the president wanted, they wanted to stay invested. And those, we have a chemical weapon strike, and Trump just goes along and fires a missile, and they can't find where the chemical weapons happened.
Yeah,
and then the Russians exposed this kid didn't have a chemical weapon strike. It was burns.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. They were trying to get further invested. And then they would say, even though Assad has taken back 95% of his territory, now he has a chemical weapon strike. He's like, why would he do that? He's a bad guy. And there was no critical thought. Media would just go along with that line. He's a bad guy. Media was functioning almost as an arm of the military, and not even the military, the intelligence aspect, or clandestine activities to try to knock down Assad. This was Obama's policy. He got us in Syria. So, the way they talk about this stuff is not the way this stuff actually is. I have no feelings against the Kurds one way or the other. It's not my business. I don't care. What I care about is that my troops are there trying to prop up an autonomous region and steal the oil from Assad and in some weird way back up Israel or protect Israel in this. That's not my job. That's not our troops' job. That's not our military's job. Our military's job is not there to prop up somebody else's country. And it's not even a country. It's an autonomous region. Let them work with Assad. It's in Syria. Bring them home. That's where I'm at. Kashmir.
Yeah.
All right. So
I don't know what just happened there.
I'm sorry. Kashmir. So
this is hard enough for me to follow without you jumping back and forth.
My bad.
I need you to stay with.
All right. So Kashmir. There were back and forth weapons fires in Kashmir. Just so people, just an update. Modi puts through political activities because it goes beyond him just revoking 370. It also had to do with the weakening of the Kashmir parliament and those type of things. But in a long story short, Modi weakens and revokes Kashmir's autonomy. The only Muslim area in India in what Muslims consider to be a hostile government towards Muslims just gets revoked. And he says they're part of India now. He floods that area with military. In addition to flooding the area with military, burlap sacking various members of the community, essentially sweeping them away. The Indian press, just like the American press would essentially lie for the government, pretends as if nothing to see here, folks, and that the business leaders, the academic leaders, the people who are activists, that gets courted off and taken away, that they are somehow terrorists.
Yeah.
Terrorists are relative, right? So right now, there's a media blackout. Internet, communications, everything, blackout. Not to mention people who need medical assistance and all those things of for the most part, been gummed up. It is unclear what is taking place in Kashmir, and there's talks about a lot of killings. There have been border skirmishes between Let's see. How long was that down? Do you know?
Just a second.
Okay. All right. So, major escalation of hostilities on the border this year also threatened a ceasefire that was agreed in 2003. The latest round of shelling occurred on Sunday in the border villages of M4All and Tangdar in Kashmir Kupwari district, but both sides provided differing accounts of what happened. India accused Pakistan of targeting civilians and killing one man and injuring 3 others. The chief of Indian Army, General Bipin Rawat, told reporters that India retaliated by targeting militias and carrying out at least 6 Pakistani soldiers and destroying 3 camps. But Pakistan Army spokesman, Major General Asif Ghaffur, said it was India that had violated the ceasefire, deliberately targeting civilians. He said 9 Indian soldiers were killed and several injured in retaliatory fire. Now, I don't have to explain why this is dangerous. Both of these countries are nuclear power countries. Pakistan has a nuclear bomb, so does India.
Right.
And both of these guys have developed militaries. Interestingly enough, India has been buying weapons from Russians despite the United States protests and bitching about it, which is a little weird just because of the closeness to the U.S. and that we may be seeing somewhat of a sea change in the multipolar world where these guys are willing to not do everything the United States tries to force them to do. But, this is clearly a problem. I mean, like I say, Imran Khan has been flipping out over this, and you have a right-winger as Modi that gets a certain degree of political props from his base when he does stuff like this. Meaning, think of right-wingers in the United States. This notion of it's the other, it's always somebody else's fault, we push. And you have people who back him up when he does that. The disincentives are kind of ugly. The question becomes, does the U.S. rein in both of these guys? Because the U.S. has a relationship with both. The U.S. has a relationship with Pakistan, tortured one that it is, and the U.S. has a relationship with India. Does the U.S. try to get both of them and say, look, calm this shit down. Work this shit out.
Bring it down.
If that president is Tulsi Gabbard, I hate to tell you that answer would be no. Tulsi is against interventionism, except when it comes to Kashmir, which seems to be the case. She will talk all day about it, and when you bring up Kashmir, she would spend maybe 2 seconds.
Well, that's different.
And moving on. Somehow that's different. It's complicated. Because again, I know you guys hate it when I say there's an associated to Modi. I hate it. It is. I don't know why you don't think there is. And this issue of Kashmir gets it across, if nothing else, better than anything else. She is very sheepish on talking about Kashmir.
Yeah.
So, human rights, yes, she would bring up in a heartbeat. I mean, in general, but, not Kashmir. So, one of the other patrons was talking about Chile. So
the same patron, Michael
Same
Williams.
patron, Michael Williams. So this was on my page for like a day or two. This is an energy company, ironically, in flames. Why is this energy company in flames? This energy company is in flames because Chile has started to go through policies that was going to dramatically increase the amount that people were going to pay for energy. And those people flipped out, no fucks to give, and burned the shit down. Burn the shit down.
Wow.
Now,
what does the tweet say? Protesters in Chile.
Wait, there's more. It's not just the power company. It's also train stations and
tolls.
And tolls.
Ooh, I'm down for that.
So the government is
A lot of
essentially
tolls
took a repressive approach to crack down on this and call it a national emergency. It's not just Chile. It's also, by the way, this is also Chile. I mean, they've been erupting in protests. This has been going on for several days. gas, of course.
Oh wow, that windshield is broken.
Yeah.
They're like in the car, like hitting people in the car.
So this is Chile. By the same token, as we think about it, is it wrong? Is it wrong? You have a society that has made the lives of people in that society more difficult by doing something that they didn't necessarily have to do. They did. There's a certain degree of corruption involved in the process. Those people took a step to put the government on notice that, at the end of the day, the consent that you have is given by us.
Right.
And that can be revoked at any time. The revocation of that doesn't mean that the government won't push back. So you're going to have armored cars, you're going to have police shooting people, you're going to have gas, you're going to have all that stuff. But if the public keeps coming, what is the government going to do? What is the government going to do? Is it civil war? The revocation of that right is not just this kind of gentlemanly thing, if you know what I mean. The revocation of that you have ran in a way that has worked to the interests of the top 1%, and we're sick of that strategy. We're sick of that policy, and people burn shit to the ground. The revocation of that, it's not an easy process. It's not the government just saying, okay, we're going to give this over.
Right.
A government in and of itself is supposed to be a stick-to-it thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a government. So government will push back. The question becomes, how long does government until they relent?
Yeah.
And do they relent at all? And if they don't, what kind of repressive regime will be put into place? This is not the only thing. This is... The other one was an issue of class. This is also...
Hong Kong.
No, it's not. This is Catalonia. This is Spain. This is where we were. Yeah, that's what's happened since we've left. Look at how the cops are beating the shit out of people. Why is that taking place? That's taking place because if you remember, I think it was roughly a year ago, Catalonia made a vote. And a vote to leave. A non-binding referendum, but it was a referendum to leave.
I remember that.
The government of Spain, right-winger, sent people down there to beat the shit out of those people as they were going into the polling and coming out of the polling, again, non-binding. It had no legal force from the standpoint of ultimate law. Those people who put that through, the politicians, were arrested and given a joint sentence of like 99 years. 9 to 13 years for each of them for making a non-binding revolution. The area where we were, Catalonia, blew up immediately. Shit is on fire immediately because they took a referendum to leave. They wanted to leave. Now the catch is, this is class, but in the opposite way, because this is a rich area, not a poor area, and they just want to leave to exist on their own. But my point is, look at how cops are doing that. Look at what the cops are doing. This is also Catalonia. Look at all of these people. United purpose. Again, pissed off. Doesn't that look familiar? That looks like the street we're on, but I could be wrong. Some of these streets look familiar. And to be honest, while we were there was political tagging. Not just Catalonia, not just Chile. Here's Lebanon.
Moni G said, is this what we have to look forward to?
It depends. How bad do things get? Again, corruption is the issue. Class. They tried to put a tax on WhatsApp. Had you heard about this? They tried to put a tax on WhatsApp. There's certain problems that Lebanon has. Some of it is the friends that it keeps, like Saudi Arabia and those type of countries. And those people saying, yeah, we're done with dealing with you with this corruption stuff. Some of it thinks because they're associated, getting closer to Iran, and their closeness to Iran, Saudi Arabia gets more dicey with that because they're off hands with Iran. Like all of this, like there's certain political pressures, but there's also corruption because why can't you keep the lights on? It's stuff like that. This crowd was sparked by the WhatsApp thing, but it's grown to this. Now, this channel, I've said that protests, when they start, when they gather a momentum, it always escalates. It never stays. It's never, like the Russian Revolution didn't start off as a revolution in that sense.
Right.
We want bread. It's like, Yeah, all right, we want more than bread now. Well, same thing with these. The French protests, meaning the Yellow Vest movement is still going. When Macron relented, what did they say? Yeah, now we want to take down the government itself. Same thing with Chile. It starts off as one thing, elevates to something else. Same thing in Hong Kong. Starts off with one thing, elevates to something else. It never fails. The moment that people start coming together and they're realizing, holy shit, we have numbers.
Right.
We can do something. We can affect change. We have an idea of what we want. We have certain myths that we believe in. Let's fucking do this. And they go. It escalates. It never fails. It never fails. This is Beirut. Haiti. Trying to take down the government. Now, I have a friend of mine that stayed in Haiti for roughly almost a year. And one of the things she said is a beautiful country. It is massively, massively, massively corrupt. Extremely so. This is a pushback against corruption. And if I'm not mistaken, the person who Clinton pushed in office, this is his successor. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But again, protests all over the place. They're everywhere. It's like all of these places on fire, and this is just some. I haven't gotten to Hong Kong. I haven't even shown you the Brexit one, because Brexit is just as bad. When you look at the number of people who are out there protesting for a second referendum, it fills the streets of London. There are protests all over. And all of these, to some degree, are issues of class.
So let's have the conversation, because people are having it in the chat, and this is something that I ask too when I see it. First of all, it looks like the world's coming to an end. Second of all, a lot of people, I'm being a little sarcastic.
World War II was looking like the world's coming to an end.
A lot of people are asking, could you see this happen in the States? They're saying that we Americans are too lazy and propagandized to, do these kind of protests.
Propagandized, yes, here. But they are. I mean,
to this degree.
Let me say it this way. Every country has their struggle, the thing that they fight against. There are things that are good in the country, there are things that are bad, but there are incremental pushes to make various things better. Every country has their struggle. In Saudi Arabia, you have women trying to drive, in which case they're throwing their bodies on the line to be prosecuted to drive.
Right.
We look at that and we're aghast by that. That's their struggle. That's their fight. In Syria, you have Bashar al-Assad. We decided to try to topple that government as opposed to letting the forces in that country fight its own battles. It's not like he's massacring in a sense of genocide. He's fighting the war that we assisted in pushing forward. I guess I'm making the point that every country has their struggles. This is ours. Now, we come from a history of being uber capitalists. We are the capitalist nation, and we are the nation that is fighting the Soviets, who are supposed to be the commies. So think of the propaganda that took place in our country from the standpoint of unions, socialists, communists, all of these other groups that were on the left that was pushing for change in this country, and how all of those groups have been systemically crushed. Now you have a budding thing of, all right, 95% of the wealth went to the top 1%. Maybe it shouldn't be that way. And you have people who now are given space politically to make the argument. And given space to make that argument of saying, hey, maybe we should raise taxes on the rich. And 70% of the population says, yeah, we like that. But somebody has to say it. And if you spend 40, 50 years demonizing it and then being in a party where you convince people this is far to the left as you can go, well, it takes time for people to get a consciousness of sorts of what people call waking up.
Enough suffering, Garden Gnomes.
Yeah.
About enough suffering.
Yeah. Because I hate to tell you this, if there was a recession, like what took place in 2008, and there was a Sanders that took over, what would Sanders have argued from the standpoint of political weight that needed to take place versus Obama? Those are drastically different things. Yeah. Like Sanders would have argued, and the Occupy Wall Street movement, he would have used that as a political weapon. That thing would have been a bludgeon. And using that as a bludgeon would have brought more people out into the streets. I hope you understand what I mean. There's a feedback. It's the political space from the level of the president is saying yes. It's kind of like a civil rights movement, but in this case, a human rights movement. The political space says yes. The political people who back the president say yes. And not just yes, we need to do this because there are people in the streets. They're angry, and your barricades are not going to keep them away from you. That's a positive thing. But we didn't get that because we got Obama. Well, they're calling for another recession. Sanders is in the race. What does Sanders do with something like that? Like, I guess my point is, suffering allows for the opportunity. In the same way that the suffering in the Russian Revolution allowed for the opportunity. The Tsar wasn't going anywhere if it wasn't for the war weakening the Tsar and putting weapons into the hands of the working class.
Okay, wait. Let's bring it back to the States.
I
know you're making a comparison, but
we have an armed to the teeth population.
That was going to be my next thing.
And we have one that is suffering from the standpoint of difficulties. I would argue that that's why you have Trump.
No, I understand.
If an argument is made to those people that, look, this is not entirely your own fault, and we can work to our ends together, that's the first time they've heard that argument. Sometimes it takes time to wake people up. I agree that they're propagandists. And I even agree that they have a certain consciousness that is weird because they work against their own self-interest. The thing that breaks that, I agree with Garneau, is to some degree suffering. Ultimately, the population itself, you have a segment of the population that says, I'm okay with the system, let's keep it. And you have another segment that is stuck in the system itself. Until you get that segment that says, I agree with this, to be less and less and less and less, nothing changes.
Well, Trudy said in her comment that studies show that change and protests and people don't start getting pissed off until the majority of people fall below the poverty line.
Right there. Bam.
Yeah.
Right there.
So, and then some people are saying that, like, the United States, as far as our armed police forces, shut a lot of that down. Like, you're looking at this kind of stuff about how the protesters are attacking the police, and it's like, that shit ain't going down.
That would never happen in the States.
That's not going to happen.
At least not initially. I mean, like, I think that only happens in the States when you get to a point where people are, like, just fed up. Like honestly, and I don't even think it would be armed police. I think it would be like bombings.
Yeah.
Like I think people would be.
That would not
I mean,
be
you may get like
tolerated.
massive protests, and the problem is with the Occupy Wall Street. If you don't take advantage of it the first time, they break it the second time. Like, that's something that's surprising to take place in the United States, and as it's surprising, you take advantage of it. The president you had in office allowed 95% of the wealth to go to the top 1%, and while doing that, broke those protests. He might have shucked and jive in language, but he broke those. Well, that's what he did. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, can that happen in the States? It would look different, but yeah. It would look different, but yes.
Michael Williams said, girls spit on the police and get wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the videos that you showed me in Hong Kong, they were beating the shit out the police. And I was like, we would have been murdered.
They torched the police station. To put it in perspective.
There's no
They
way.
were holding down the airport in order to prevent flights. Now, it aggravates me because when Donald Trump did that thing where he decided I'm not going to pay our workers, I'm going to shut the government down. And you had people working in that airports that weren't getting paid for a president who was utterly and entirely corrupt that didn't give a shit about them. And they're still working under this notion, we got to do our job, Fuck that. If you're looking for anything to spark a protest, it should have been that. The government is fundamentally corrupt, is not attuned to the rights and the interests of the public itself. We're not doing our jobs if we're not getting paid. Fuck it. What I would guarantee you is they would have made a deal overnight. That shit would have been dealt overnight. There's no way they were going to allow the airports to be shut down.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm saying workers at that point should have literally went on strike, not for a Democrat or Republican thing, more so just because this government doesn't care about us. And they're literally shutting down over some stupid campaign pledge and having this nonsense fight in politics.
Titus says, we can overpower police. We have the numbers, and the military wouldn't kill civilians because it would cause a revolt in the military.
Maybe. Why wouldn't it cause a revolt in the police? They're both people. And I don't know what to tell you, but what these guys are trained to do is follow orders. And I suspect they will follow orders, including if those orders are kill the population. Why wouldn't they?
No, I know that they would.
I mean, have you talked to people in the military? They're fucking insane. Like, and I say this to say, like, they're propagandized. I mean, I know blacks who are in the military who be like, let's vote Republican. On more than one occasion.
My brother is in the military, and he has told me, he's like, yeah, we're all brainwashed.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're aware of that. And he's like, yeah, I know that I probably shouldn't think this, but, you just get told it, and we're all pretty much brainwashed.
They go into Iraq, and 1 million people die. and you find out there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And then many of these guys are like, yeah, that war wasn't worth it. But you still went in and did that job. You were told to do something. You're being paid to do it. And your government is telling you what you're doing is great. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. I guess I'm saying there's a certain brainwashing that goes along with it.
Jino Chow says, Choi, U.S. police and military have zero problem mowing down civilians.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I don't know why people think they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're... And, thanks Obama, they can now be on home soil. They can now fight on home soil. You know why? Occupy Wall Street. When Obama put down Occupy Wall Street, the law to the Bush's law have been updated to essentially allow U.S. military to be on home soil. This was something that should not have taken... Like, media should have flipped out about this. And this goes to the the worthlessness of media or factlessness of media. You've essentially allowed U.S. Military to be on home soil if it needs to put down some kind of revolt, like Occupy Wall Street. The catch here is revolt always becomes a political term. All of these things become political language. Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean? Right. So thanks, Obama. But again, nobody brings up this stuff that Obama was doing when Obama was doing it. Chris Hedges took Obama to court over this. And it came across as if they were still using these laws in advance of the court case.
Yeah. Gardner made a point. He said, you don't need mass numbers of soldiers to cooperate in the age of AI, drones, etc.
Yes.
Instead of needing 100 soldiers to agree, you just need one that can operate multiple devices.
A drone could cover a lot of area. And if you kill a lot of people, they may not even know what the drone operator is.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the techniques that they have in order to put down crowds, be it the sound weapons, be it, and I don't know if you've seen these sound weapons. It's a cone of sound that essentially flattens anybody who's in that cone of sound, creating a deterrent to crowds. Like all of these weapons, the heat weapons, using almost like infrared energy over a specified area in order to hurt civilians. And we haven't even gotten to laser weapons, things floating around in space that can essentially flatten a particular population that may be going after. I guess the working class, whether or not he realizes it or not, our world is moving in a direction. And the question becomes, what direction do you want that world to move in? Do you want that world to move in a way where you as workers get less power because automation takes over those positions? Like, cars, I hate to tell you this, within 10 years, there will be no truck drivers. That's my bet. In a little bit more than that, people won't be driving their own cars. And in 50 years, people will be shocked that anybody was driving a car at all. Oh man, those were the risky days.
The robot movie with Will Smith, where he still drove a motorcycle, and the girl was like, "I'm not getting on that thing."
Yeah, I'm not with you driving it.
Like,
no.
Does that have gasoline in it?
Yeah, like it's.
I feel you.
Our world changes. I mean, how many elevator men do you see? Little none. Even when you go into your shopping malls right now, you see technology taking over many of those jobs. I, as a software engineer, wrote software to eliminate jobs, like to put it in perspective. If that's true, though, and if your world is moving in that direction, what are you going to be doing? What are other people going to be doing when there's not human beings doing those jobs? There will always be jobs that human beings are doing. The catch becomes the 1% being able to use automation to accrue more and more wealth to themselves while having workers fight over the spoils. You know, it's like, I don't need you as labor now. I have other means of doing this. So it's not labor as a weapon, what it can call a strike. What happens when they don't need you in that capacity?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'm saying, as the world moves on, it's getting further and further to a point where your power in labor lessens because of the things and the tools that we have from a technological standpoint that would allow the 1%.
Get rid of the need for that, yeah.
Exactly. I think that's the worst case scenario. When I think of how it goes, I think it goes in that direction. If I am part of the 1%, and in my head, I don't really give a shit about anybody else. I just want to accrue more and more wealth because my worldview is, it's a game. The more wealth I can accrue, the better.
What's the cheapest way to get it done? The fastest.
Right. In my perspective, especially if I'm talking to other 1%ers that think like I do, I want technology. I want my process to be as automated as possible to insulate me from any notion of worker revolt or workers being pissed off.
Right.
And I want a strong police force. I want a strong military to make sure that my wealth is protected. And I want the military to be out there looking for other resources, meaning holding on to that oil in Syria so I can get my companies over there to exploit that oil. I mean, and I want to be paying politicians to hold a certain worldview that would allow me to do that. People like Lindsey Graham and pretty much the entire Democratic Party. Perspective of the 1%. They're trying to insulate themselves from labor and all of this other stuff. And for the most part, I think that's a terrifying reality from the standpoint of workers. And in my head, it's like, why even allow that at all? Like, ultimately, that worldview means that you matter less than their profits.
Yeah.
And that's fucking insane. I mean, right now, you have a situation where their capacity to do anything is entirely dependent upon labor. And we accept a premise where 95% of the wealth goes to the top 1% under Obama. That's mind-blowing to me. Human beings are infinitely more important than cash to me. And I don't understand why other human beings don't believe that. And whereas the top 1% may say, yeah, fuck that. I don't give a shit. So what? They're 1%. It's in our self-interest to behave and act a particular way, and we don't. Nor do we have a consciousness that accepts it. So I didn't, I took this from a Jack Fresco standpoint, and I realized the politics of it demands it. Julian Assange, real quick. Let's do Julian Assange.
All right, well, we've got 288 people here.
Nice.
If you're enjoying so far, hit the thumbs up button. We're going to move on to the next topic. Michael Williams also suggested that we talk about what's going on most recently with Julian Assange.
Okay. All right, let's see. Are we back? Come on. Good. All right, we're back.
All right, there we go.
So, Julian Assange, this is a picture of him. He had a case today. He looks rough. And to be honest, the situation regarding him has not necessarily been all that pleasant today. It said that he had trouble remembering his name, and he had trouble essentially just articulating things. Mm-hmm. Right here, the 48-year-old wanted in the United States over claim that he was involved in hacking and leaking of a massive classified documents in 2010 through WikiLeaks' website. Now, appearing in Westminster Magistrates Court this morning, Assange stuttered as he struggled to tell the court his name and was a long pause before he gave his date of birth. Assange appeared in court clean-shaven with white hair swept back, holding a large bundle of paperwork and wearing a dark blue suit and white shirt. Asked in the end if he understood what happened in court, Assange replied, not really, and complained that he was battling against a superpower with unlimited resources. Assange wanted this case to be pushed. His argument was, look, I have not had enough time to process this stuff, not to mention, clearly, not in the best of health. They are killing him live in front of the world, almost to make an example of him. The court denied this. Now, this is a modest issue. I mean, in the sense of, look, I need more time to understand what is being processed on me. And there's another issue. It's found that the CIA was working in Spain, of all places, and they made the point that there's a different case going on. The argument that Assange is making is this is a politically driven case. I should not be sent to the U.S. And with the secondary issue that is going on, where it seems that the CIA was working in Spain to get information on Assange, well, his point was, look, we need to push this. So right here, if further case management, that's not it. WikiLeaks public right, Assange right. It's politically attempt to signal a jury's consequences of publishing information, he said, is legally unprecedented. Right here. The American state has been actively engaged in intruding in privileged discussions between Mr. Assange and his lawyers and the embassy. That's what it was. It's an invasion of legal privilege, adding that the claims speak to the nature of the trial Mr. Assange faces in due course. Mr. Summers said Assange believes that this case against him, first lodged under Obama, has been reinvigorated since Trump's election. It's a political attempt to signal to journalists the consequences of publishing privileged information. It's legally unprecedented. They're making the point that the CIA was spying on Assange, including his legal team, and the conversations that they were having in the legal team. Their point is, look, with this information out now, it is clear that there is some political motivation involved in this. We need more time to understand what is going on. The judge denied that and essentially is pushing the case forward. Apparently, he looked bad, and the people who were there to see him kind of attested to such.
Deterioration.
Yeah. Weight loss and all. All right. So, I want to go to the first story that I would like to talk about.
Wait. So this was also a super chat from Rob R. We didn't forget Rob.
That was a super chat?
Rob said...
That was already on my list.
Okay, slow down. Calm down.
That was on my list.
Rob R. said, how can Elizabeth Warren be backing away from Medicare for All when she was never for Medicare for All?
Oh, beautifully put. Beautifully put.
So
it's like
shout out to
asking,
you, Rob
yeah,
R.
it's like asking a woman up for coffee, and it's like
I don't drink coffee.
11 o'clock at midnight. Right. It's like, would you like coffee? It's like, no, I don't drink coffee. Good.
Well,
I don't have any coffee anyway. Right. It's one of those type of things. It's a dagger thing. All right. So yeah, let's do that. Elizabeth Warren abandons Medicare for All. Now, here's the catch. In the beginning, when this race first started, and let's start previous in the beginning, 2012, Elizabeth Warren is asked, are you for Medicare for All? She says, no, and I've never been for it. You can look back in my past. That's a true statement. That's not me picking on Warren. That's true.
Facts.
Fact. Second point. Warren comes out, I'm now for Medicare for All. I've evolved on this issue because the presidential election is afoot. And signs on the Bernie Sanders bill. Third point. Elizabeth Warren eventually puts out her healthcare plan, or meaning the thing on her website, and Medicare for All is not listed in it at all. It's not listed at all. What am I on? Fourth point? She gets on a debate stage, and despite not having a healthcare plan, argues vociferously, and in the first debate, I can honestly admit this, even better than Sanders on Medicare for All. In the second and third debate, she continues to argue for Medicare for All. And at that point, though, Sanders has acclimated his argument
about
in tandem with hers. No, what I mean is, them two, their arguments over the course of the debates have gotten better and better and better in explaining and defending Medicare for All. Mm-hmm. It's just on point. Both of them resonate with each other when they're in the debate stage and they're talking about it.
The two of them against everybody else.
Right. Problem, Warren is not for it in practice. She only says it in theory when she's on the debate stage. That's true. When she is off the debate stage, she's told people it was a framework. She's told people that it's not entirely worked out. You have a right to be suspicious. She's told people, even went so far as to say that, look, I'm for many plans. It's not a contest.
Yeah.
So, if you are for many plans, how do I scrutinize your plan? If Medicare for All is my litmus test, and you've just gotten across to me that you don't really buy into the stuff, you just want to say it on stage so people can say, oh, Sanders and Warren are 1-to-1 because both are backing Medicare for All.
With Sanders.
And then you back off the stage and it's something else. How can I judge you on your healthcare plan if I don't know what your healthcare plan is? That's interesting. And
that's why.
Right.
I don't want you to judge me, so I'm not going to give you anything to judge me on.
I want the capacity to pivot. Meaning, when I get out of this race, I want to be able to tack to something else and then scream to high heaven that what I'm talking about is Medicare for All.
True.
And when I say support for Medicare for All, I just mean it's okay for me. I like it.
Trying to be fine says she's currently planning to make plans. Cool Blue 71. Thank you for the super chat while we're on this conversation. Cool Blue 71 says Elizabeth Warren versus Bernie Sanders. She is the car which cuts one Sanders off in traffic. 2020 Democratic presidential primaries.
She cut him off at the knees in the last race.
Yeah, that Warren has a plan for all of Bernie's policies. I liked on the last debate because I think it was Buttigieg that called her out and was like, that's your thing, is to have a plan for everything.
And yet, no plan on this.
Right.
Joe Biden has been saying the same thing. They've been ridiculing her about it. Because I argue that the reason she can't tell people whether or not she's going to raise taxes, she doesn't have a plan.
Right.
She doesn't know.
I haven't decided which way I'm going to go.
I haven't decided.
So I can't tell you exactly how my plan is going to work because I don't technically.
I mean, there are 2 points.
One.
That. And she also doesn't want to be seen saying, yes, I'm going to raise taxes. She doesn't want to be hit with it.
Right. But I did like in the last debate how they were kind of hitting her.
They were hitting her.
Sounds bad, but I liked the fact that they were like, like they weren't letting her back away from it.
Warren, who has been hit relentlessly on this, even MSNBC, who pushes Warren whole hog, came out and said she looks really deceptive on this. She looks like she's dishonest. And Joe Biden has been making the argument that if you can't tell the American public that you're going to raise taxes on an issue this important, then maybe the public is going to lose credibility and maybe you're dishonest. Like the argument is dishonesty. So now Warren, under pressure from these various groups to tell whether or not she's going to raise taxes, which is weird because Bernie Sanders supports Medicare for all, and he says, yes, I am.
This is how we're going to do it.
So he wrote the bill. He's saying yes.
He wrote the damn bill.
And you're saying something else. You seem dishonest. So Warren comes out and abandons Medicare for all.
Over the next few weeks, to put out a plan that talks about specifically the cost of Medicare for all and specifically how we pay for it. You know, right now, the cost estimates on Medicare for all vary by trillions and trillions of dollars. And the different revenue streams for how to fund it, there are a lot of them. So this is something I've been working on for months and months, and it's got just a little more work until it's finished.
Well, this...
All right. Medicare for all, again, I know I say this a lot, is a bill. It is a specific bill. There is a coordinating bill in the House of Representatives. What she is going to do is come out with a plan and then call that plan Medicare for all. Despite the fact that Medicare for all is a specific plan. Right. I keep saying this, like either you support it or you don't. I don't understand this consternation. Oh, I need to write a... It sounds like she's writing her own plan. That's what it sounds like. Is it just me? She says, I'm still working on it. I'm still tinkering.
Right.
I'm still coming up with it.
She said, I'm going to be coming out with a plan. I've been working on it for a couple of months.
Yeah. But then she also said...
Medicare for all has already been put out there. What else are you working on?
What else are you working on?
Are you making changes to Medicare for all?
Isn't that interesting? And you can't make changes to Medicare for all because it's a specific bill. Unless you have a secondary plan that is something else that you're also trying to ascribe the label of Medicare for all, despite the fact that Medicare for all is a specific plan. Honestly, she handled this horribly. Her answer should have just been, under Medicare for all plan, yes, taxes will go up. That doesn't force her to stick with that plan. She's just saying under that model of the world.
What happens with Medicare for all?
Instead, she has allowed them to hound her so much so she's like, all right, I'm going to have a plan. Warren is not for Medicare for all. I hate to tell people, and I've said it. I've argued this with Laura Steiner. She's going to be on the show tomorrow. Her and I got into a big argument over this because I'm like, she's not for it. You're being had. Like, that she is giving you, she's shucking and jiving with you in order to get you. She will pivot. And whatever she pivots to, she will scream that it's Medicare for all, just like the Affordable Care Act. And my thing is, what do you have to say that's not true? She can't tell you whether the tax is going to be raised on it. Back in 2012, she said she wasn't for it. And just because she says it on the campaign stage, she has said that there are multiple plans. Well, those multiple plans are not Medicare for all. Medicare for all is a bill. She's not for it. I don't believe she's for it. And if I don't believe she's for it, I think all of this is nonsense. I think she's being dishonest.
Yeah. She's just saying what sounds provocative while simultaneously leaving herself in a position to go elsewhere. Any which way.
Yeah, that's what it was. Pivot. Yeah. It's going to be a pivot. And it's going to hurt people to their hearts when it happens. But Lord knows
a little bit of that.
It will happen. Now, the secondary thing, I've shown this video yesterday. I went through the long video, through Sanders' original video, but they have a snapshot of it, so I want to use theirs. Has Sanders turned over, or his campaign, turned over a new leaf in how they deal with Elizabeth Warren?
God, I hope so.
Oh, and the question is interesting.
I hope it includes punching her in the face, figuratively.
Well,
punching her
Nina
in
Turner
the face.
Has no issue doing this, clearly. But this is kind of the thing. When Sanders woke up from that heart attack, what I hoped was we have a new Sanders.
Like, woo! All right. I got to get it together.
Well, and I hoped that his campaign, all of them, sat in a room, him drinking tea, with Jane Sanders in the room with him. What?
Rubbing his chest.
Oh, yeah, right. Making sure he's good. All of them sitting in a room, and somebody breaks the silence and says, look, Warren is trying to pretend to be us. She is gaining from that strategy. She's not us. It's not a one-to-one. And despite that, she still has used that strategy, and she's profited from that. We need to do something about that, and we can't just talk about policy. Now, that probably wouldn't have been Sanders, but that would have probably been someone else that has more cutthroat in their approach to politics, kind of like me, that says that. Sanders, whatever Sanders said, Sanders at the very least, if he really wants to win, had to say yes to that. He has to acknowledge that. Meaning, if you can't even acknowledge that, then I don't think you're trying to win. What they may say, however, is, look, we don't want you hitting Warren. Because if you hit Warren, it blows back on you. Let your lieutenants do it. Now, the catch here is, if you have to do it on the debate stage, because that's where, like when she's saying I'm for Medicare for all, she's saying that on the debate stage. Yeah. And they're pinning her to it. They've literally, fine. Because all of the campaigns know she's not for it. They know it. They don't care. They know that she said there are other plans and everything else. I realized it was like, they don't care. What they want is to pin her to Medicare for all and make her look dishonest. And scream that you're being dishonest to the Americans. You're being dishonest to Americans, to say it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's easier than trying to hit her on something else, which Kamala Harris learned the hard way. If you're to the left of Warren, what are you hitting her on? Think about that for the moment. You're in a primary, where the majority of the people in the primary process are lefties. Even though they may, you have an old segment of African Americans that are terrified and vote Biden, for the most part, the primary are full of lefties. What do you use to hit her on if you are to the right of Warren? That's an interesting question.
To the left of Warren?
No, to the right. Because everyone else on the stage is to the right of Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
And they need to somehow create something that says, look, I'm relevant, vote for me. And in order to do that, you have to hit her on something. Well, Kamala Harris tried to hit her on Trump's Twitter feed. That didn't work. That fell apart.
That was ridiculous.
But what if your name is Bernie Sanders? You can hit Warren on the left.
Yeah.
But he chooses not to do so, and has chosen not to do so. And what I hope is somebody in that room says, sir, you're a great moral man, but great moral men don't typically win, and you need to vet her.
Nice guys finish last.
You need to vet her. And so I'm hoping that that's what took place. Well, let me play this real quick. So this is Lieutenant Hype Woman Nina Turner laying into Warren unabashed.
Wait. Can I read this before you play it?
Go ahead.
So Garden Gnome says, I don't think they've turned over a new leaf, meaning Bernie after the heart attack, right?
Right.
Nina made general statements and said nothing about Warren specifically. He thinks you're reading intentionally into her intentionally vague comments. So I want to watch this to see, is it vague comments? Does she mention Warren?
Warren is the only candidate that called Medicare for all the framework.
Come on, let's watch. I know, but he's saying dropping names.
Oh yeah, he never mentioned her name. Like, she never mentions Warren by name. But saying there are many copies, I mean, come on, we know what she's talking about.
Right,
and even mentioning, Medicare for all as a framework. Medicare for all is not a framework. Didn't come out in 2016. Bernie Sanders literally went to Warren to try to get Warren to come out in 2016. Warren chose not to do so. Staying on the sidelines, well, Warren literally stayed on the sidelines. That's what everybody knows of her. I don't know what the vague statements are.
Yeah.
I get that you may not necessarily want to believe. Oh, and by the way, this doesn't mean they took over New Leaf. I'm asking. I'm not saying. I'm just making the point that, God, I hope that somebody
put some fire under his ass.
Yes.
Whether it was a heart attack or seasons change.
Because otherwise, I don't know how they make the argument that he really wants to win. I don't. I honestly don't. My framing of the world doesn't process it. In my framing of the world, you win by all measure that you have at your disposal. You try to win.
Not for the knees.
And in his case, it seems like they have made a specific choice not to go after her. And my question is, why? There are a host of issues that you could have. Why? Is it that you expect or you think you'll get blowback, and so you have people like Turner to do it, and you do it in somewhat vague ways? Is this their new leaf, or is this the same old, same old? If this is the same old, I got to be honest, Sanders has a hard way to go to win this race if they've just stayed with standard, and Warren has literally leapfrogged him in the context of how he was running this race.
Roll that beautiful being footage.
And I say, Queens, that there's nobody quite like Senator Bernard Sanders. I mean that. We got some folks in mainstream and the neoliberal side who really can't understand the difference. But I'm going to break this down for you. There are many copies. There are people who didn't have the same guts and the same courage as Senator Bernie Sanders to run in 2016.
That is directly aimed at Warren. That is directly aimed at
I know
Warren.
that because he wanted Warren to run in 2016.
I'm just saying that's not vague.
I feel you. I guess what I'm saying is
He didn't say by name. She's avoiding the name. Like, she's conspicuously avoiding the name. But it's clear that's Warren. Let's keep going.
There are some people who sat on the sideline when it was hard. There was only one person who stood up to the establishment, and his name is Bernard Sanders. So, yeah, there are many copies, but there is only one original. I don't know why you would take the copy, baby, when you can have the original. He didn't vote to give President Trump more money for wars. Hello, somebody.
Just to point out, Warren did. In fact, if you remember, Emma Vigeland asked Warren, hey, how does your lefty bona fides own up to or match up to giving Trump so much more money in the military budget? And Emma, to her credit, Warren supporter, asked the question. Kudos to Emma. Now, shame on Emma for not following up when Warren answers, because Warren says, wait, so you're asking, should we decrease the military budget? Yes, I think we should decrease the military budget. That's not what she was asked at all. She asked you, how do you and your progressive bona fides match up to giving Trump more money in the military budget? Sanders didn't vote for it. You did. Why did you? And she completely changed it around. She says, yes, the military budget is corrupt, full of, all of these people getting shady hand in pockets and all of this other stuff, and that stuff needs to stop. And Emma Vigeland didn't just immediately, just from journalistic intent, reflexively say, wait a minute, you voted for a corrupt military budget? You voted for a military budget that you knew as a flat fact absolute was corrupt, and you voted for it. Okay, how does your progressive bona fides match up for voting for a military budget that you just said in the statement was corrupt? Emma didn't say that. I would have said that because I would have thought, wait a minute. A, you changed my question around, and B, you changed it into something that was worse than what it was in the beginning. I guess.
Can we just address that?
My point is, that's Warren.
I understand. Nina thinks she in the pulpit.
I just want to nail that out. Yeah, she's doing church. You see her walking.
She in the pulpit.
And by the
next
way,
time she come out, she gonna have a choir behind her.
And by the way,
and what's the
notice she walks away on various notes.
That's why I said she act like she in the pulpit.
No, but that's not unintentional. She's making a point. Look. So listen to the first one.
That's how they do when they're in church. When they say something, they walk
Every
away
note,
to let it marinate.
The notes that she walks away on are notes that are specifically talking about Warren to get it across that, yes, I'm talking about Warren. It's emphasis. Take a look at it. You think...
Many copies, but there is only one original.
Okay,
I get it. We don't need to watch it again.
I think the volume was off.
Okay, I don't. Right. We don't need to watch it again. I understand.
At various points when she walks away, she's doing it for interest.
A point.
But the point that she's always making when she's walking away is about Warren. And every moment when she's putting emphasis, it's on Warren. Now, you think I'm crazy on this?
I don't think you're crazy. I think you just want to play it again. Look at her.
I don't know why you would take the copy, baby, when you can have the original.
Walk away, Nina.
No, she act like she's in the pulpit.
He didn't vote to give President Trump more money for wars. Hello, somebody.
Look at yeah. She gonna say, "Can I get a hallelujah?"
He voted against these rotten trade deals that steal wealth from our community. There is only one Senator Bernard Sanders, so let the record reflect.
She about to pull
only one, just in case folks don't understand that being similar is not being the same. Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
Each of those,
she said, "Woo!"
Every walk away. I mean, that is a searing hype person. Like I've said it before. I want Nina Turner to hype my funeral. That is an amazing job that she did. So each of those cases where she's walking away is emphasis on Warren. She's not the same. She's not the same. She's not the same. Similar is not the same. Similar is not the same. And beating that note over and over and over and over again. And getting major applause because that audience knows what I know, that she's talking about Warren. The catch is, and Guard might be right on this point, she never mentions her name.
Drop the Liz bomb.
Never mentions her name.
Jay Scott
Never
says,
mentions her name.
Bernie has enough shooters. Nina, Sirota, and us.
Yeah, but we are, like, it's different. It's different. Like, I don't know if it's right for Sanders to go after Warren, or he has to go after in a specific way. Like,
we agree that it has
to be done in a particular way.
Right. It has to be
but it has to be done. It has to be done. And it's not enough for David
happen.
Sirota. Like, David Sirota's great. You know what? No one knows who he is. I'm sorry. Yes, us who pay attention to politics may know. You might even not. Yeah, she really know. That's my point. Nobody
like, I know
knows.
the name, but I'm just like...
Nobody knows who that guy is. I would wager
nothing.
even people who may know his name don't know how he looks.
No, I don't. Like, he could be right there. I feel like that's what I'm saying. I know, like, the name.
It's like that guy throwing that apple at that American vehicle could be David Sirota, right? I guess my point is, that's one thing. Those are nobodies. Warren doing this is big because people do know to some degree who Warren is. Oh, I'm sorry, Nina Turner, right. I do that, I'm sorry.
If Bernie did it, it would be even
major.
Bigger.
Now, again, has been done a particular way. And even on a debate stage, when he's slighted her.
Somebody, he needs to talk to my mama, okay? Because my mom can hurt your feelings and make you feel like a child. Not using profanity, just respectfully tearing you down, and you're not even aware that it's happening. That's how he needs to approach it. Respectfully.
It's different, though, coming from a woman and coming from a guy. Like, I know, look, any notions of equality in society, there's always a fudge factor, right? People are equal in different ways. People are somehow, endowed differently. Also, you're never out of your culture. You can't get away from it. Like, the stuff that you take with you, that your parents gave you, that their parents gave them, that their parents gave them. We look at the world in a somewhat of a particular way. Anyone getting on a debate stage with a man and a woman takes that with them. There's been no point where history has stopped this notion of sexism and people, for political reasons, using sexisms. In other case, the person actually being sexist. And you have a society that has all these perspectives of the world looking at this event. So the politicians who are in that have to behave in a particular fashion when dealing with opposition. Meaning, you can hit a man hard. You better not do that shit to a woman because immediately they're going to scream.
It doesn't even need to be hard. It just needs to happen.
But even happening sometimes. Did you see Joe Biden when he came out saying that Warren was dishonest? Old time 80s politician, and worked perfectly. It's so smooth, as if it never happened at all. That's not like, I know it's not like I love Joe Biden, but I gotta be honest. I saw Joe Biden in that moment, and I was like, I like that guy. I would never vote for him, but only because of the way Biden was doing it. Like, you look at him, and it's smooth. But it's done in a way that's
Biden when he was young?
Yeah,
he was handsome. He was probably smooth back then. He was probably smooth.
Yeah, but he used to say hateful stuff.
Oh, smooth and hateful?
Yeah. Right. I'm just saying, in that moment, when he hit Warren, he did it in a way where you left with that thinking, all right, fair enough. I don't hate the guy. Like, he's just making a good, decent point.
You're lying.
Not to mention, he actually did have a good point. So that always helps, even though Biden, of course, is throwing a punch.
Yeah.
But it's how you throw the punch, and it's not easy. But it's not just that. It's also cultural stuff or historical stuff. Like, Sanders' relationship with Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election has people hating his guts. And those people tread a certain angle on whether or not they will vote for him. And now you have another woman who's been blessed by Hillary Clinton, who's running in the race, and he's like, oh, fuck. If I hit her, what's going to happen? I don't know the answer. Now, I would say you don't have a choice. I would say,
especially at this point.
At this point, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You have to do something. And so I respect Nina doing this because Nina is awesome at this. Like Nina was throwing the punches hard, but she never used Warren's name. And Gardner was right that she was being vague, but that vagueness, like, there's a vagueness in a political sense where you can hide behind it and say, I didn't say anybody's names, baby. I'm just, up there just slinging it. That's why I need to turn over top. I ain't slinging nobody's names, baby. By the same token, a rational human being will look at that and say, okay, she's talking about Lauren. It's both are floating.
All right, let's get caught up on Super Chat. So Peter Bonk, thank you. Peter says, love you guys. Make the dream as a clip.
The dream? What's the dream?
I'm not sure.
I don't know what the dream is.
Cool Blue 71, thank you for the super chat. Cool Blue says Bernie Sanders has to distinguish himself from Elizabeth Warren on how he will be better to lead. If he doesn't, he won't win the nomination.
And right there. So what do you think about this? I accept. I have a framework of the world, meaning
framework.
Framework of the world, meaning like how I pursue the world. My functional. Operative point of view, like the point of view to which I just kind of accrue to. And I get that that's inspired heavily just by the way I've grown up. Everything that has happened to me, all of my experiences and everything else. Chess, heavily. History stuff, and issues of war and those type of things. But I guess my point is, I have a point of view. And everyone has their own first point of view.
Right.
But I think my point of view tends to be pretty dead on. And I think I have a track record on this show to demonstrate that.
You do right.
Yeah, I do pretty damn good. I look at this as a contest. And of all the things that we fight for, oftentimes the fight is in areas that have nothing to do with the objective. You know what I mean? It's like you're fighting on the queen's side of the board, but you're still trying to get the king. Ultimately, what you're fighting about is to get the choice on who runs the board, who gets the say in what takes place, and what's the new point of view espoused by the President of the United States, which we want him to be our guy.
Right.
Sanders, however, has somebody who is trying to say, I'm pretty much Bernie Sanders. I have a vagina, and I'm younger. We're pretty much the same. I'm, if not a 1 to 1,
you like him, you like me even
0.8
more.
to 1, and, for the most part, we're the same. They don't bring up foreign policy. In the old days, they said that was a big deal. They don't bring up the fact that she's, quote-unquote, the white liberal candidate. That gets ignored, even though that was a big deal in Sanders' case. And they give her a soft light, something that they don't do with Sanders. They like her. And they're pushing her, in a sense.
Wait, I got more super chats.
Okay, good.
Alexander Gonzalez.
Wait. Just basic point. If you want to win, however, you got to be able to win. And that means pursuing all of the categories where you may have ways of victory. I don't expect you to do like a John McCain thing where they're saying, hey, you need to go into the Muslim stuff. That's disgusting politics. I don't have no expectation of that from Sanders. And I don't even think it would help him.
No, not that.
But from the paths of victory or the pathways that allow you to get from point A to point B, especially from the standpoint of a pathway or decision space that allows for a victory, you have to exploit those, even if it feels a little grimy to you, if it gives you a potential of winning. Especially if your pathway at this point looks as if you're losing because of it. Because her basic strategy is, I'm just him. Pick me. And if you don't say, no, you're not, which is the most legitimate thing in the world for a person to say if somebody was aping you. I mean, she aped a Native American for 40 years. Native Americans didn't get the chance to say, no, you're not one of us. Well, at the very least, Sanders should be able to say, no, we're not the same quantity.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm sorry, if Elizabeth Warren supporters get mad at you for that, fuck them. I mean, you can't do anything about that. You're losing in the way the race is pursuing itself. And even though you did extremely well in that debate, what you didn't do is make the distinction. I mean, Elizabeth Warren at one point in the debate even says, use Kamala Harris as a prop to say Bernie Sanders and I are pretty much a 1-to-1 on not taking money. I mean, come on. And he's standing there like...
Nothing.
And it's like, are you going to say anything, Sanders? No, I nothing to say here. Does he want to win? Does he want to win? Do you think this is 3 a.m., him and his God, I am old, I am tired. Yes, I want to push this revolution through. Yes, I believe it, but fuck, I'm tired. And she is a passable copy. No, she's not going to believe in this stuff, but she's a passable copy. I'm just saying, is it one of those things where he has doubts in regards to his will to bring this to fruition? In which case, he looks at her as saying, she's not me, but it's better than nothing. I hope that's not it. Honestly, to God, I hope that's not it. But is that it? Because otherwise, I don't understand. Like,
I get it. Come on, let's go.
What do you think? I'm asking you. What do you think? Do you think that's like? Do you think that's what it is? Where he's like, I'm tired. I'm trying to make change.
I feel like he's trying to run his campaign a certain kind of way.
So you think
misunderstanding the fact that
I'm moral, and so I'm going to take a moral, and moral in this case entirely being defined by him. Look, I'm not screaming at you, but if it's a moral argument, this is the argument that angers me the most. You're in a contest. You're in a game space. This is not a situation where you're like just kind of pursuing your events like in a family. You are literally in a game space. Your objective is to win the presidency, not just win. They gave him nearly $250 million in that last election to win. That means doing what you think is necessary and beyond what you may think is necessary to win. And if he's not doing that, I don't understand why. And so I look for explanations.
I don't have
as to why. I asked Nina Turner. She never answered me.
Okay.
I did. I made a video asking Nina Turner questions.
Okay. Alex,
people said they were really good questions.
I believe you.
Because they were Sanders supporters' questions of, what the fuck is he doing? What is he doing?
Why
if you're not making a
her?
distinction between us, then you're not like because look at it. Look at it from the perspective of just a random American who's not entirely involved in politics, and they see Bernie Sanders, nearly 80 something, just had a heart attack, white male, etc. They see Warren, woman, a little bit younger, didn't have a heart attack. She has a vagina. All intents and purposes. You already
said woman. All intents and purposes.
We think. I mean, we don't know.
What the hell?
We give her the benefit of the doubt. And they're saying to you, it's not but the same. Because from their framing of the world, their politics has just been democratic politics. And so in their framing of democratic politics, they say, he might be better, but I mean, ultimately, I mean, she still moves us. So yeah, they're but the same. And with that argument of they're but the same, she's a woman. Now the catch becomes, can she beat Trump? And that becomes a different argument, like those conversations. But I'm just saying, just looking at it, it looks like close enough.
I get it.
The close enough argument works. It works. I swear to God, it works.
I know.
And so if he's not
that argument down,
right, then you, for the most part, are doing a disservice to the people who are supporting you to win.
I understand.
The goal is the presidency. And I don't believe she could beat him. And not just not believe she could beat him, I don't even believe her. I think she's full of it.
Okay, all right.
Stark's got his head chopped off.
Alexander Gonzalez, this is painful.
He did.
He says, babe, let me read the super chat.
Oh, I thought you were saying something. Ned Stark's didn't get his head chopped off. My bad.
No. Alexander Gonzalez says, I got 2 Hillary 2020 poll emails today. I hope you're fucking joking.
Tony, that would be so awesome.
Tony Walters, thank you for the super chat. Tony says, Nina never mentioned a name, but only one name fits.
Yeah. I mean, the framework stuff, there was no one else that said Medicare for All is a framework.
Render unto Caesar says something in line. He says, if you don't know who she's talking about, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. I don't know what Gardner means on that one.
Somebody said Gardner just being a contrarian.
Well, the catch
as Gardner typically does.
Here's the catch. It's political vagueness. If somebody goes to Nina and says, you were talking about Warren there, were you? She would say, look, I'm talking about many of those people on that stage are pretending to be Bernie Sanders. She will fall back into the political vagueness of that message. But I love the fact that everybody with brains knows she's talking about Warren. Isn't politics weird? Like, the language allows a hiding, which is why I'm so on it about Warren, because the language allows a hiding. Warren has caused herself so many fucking problems. She should have just said, under a Medicare for All system, taxes will go up. But she doesn't want to say that because that's a political thing that Republicans will use. But you can't hide the ball. Hiding the ball looks worse.
Yeah.
Politically, you make a choice that is least worse. In that case, it's least worse. Otherwise, come on and say you're not for Medicare for All. You're for something else. Talking about I'm with Bernie.
It's getting close to my bedtime. Trudy says Bernie does not need to be told how to win.
Excuse me.
That's what Trudy said. Audrey says...
Excuse me, just one moment. Just to interrupt for a moment. New poll out. I was going to get to this, but thank you for the intro, Trudy. Former Vice President 32%, down 1 point. Elizabeth Warren, 22%, up 3 points from September. Bernie Sanders, 17%, unchanged. There was a time where Bernie Sanders was in the number 2 spot consistently. And now, a poll after poll after poll is showing he's in the third spot. Now, I don't buy all of these polls, so don't misunderstand me. I'm just making a point that she has been getting lavish media attention, and her playbook, day one, I am essentially a cuddlier version of Bernie Sanders. That's what I am. And when we're on the debate stage, I'm going to say as much. I'm going to say that I'm not taking money just like Sanders. I'm going to say I'm going to fuck those healthcare companies just like Sanders. I'm going to take on the drug companies just like Sanders. She just says across the board, I'm a cuddlier Sanders. And that
vaginated.
And vaginated in a Democratic Party full of identitarians. You know, these guys are looking at people purely from the standpoint of gender. And so they see her and they think, well, if there was any God quantity between these two parties in political language, he's a 1, she's a 0.8. I don't need her to be pure. She has a vagina. Fuck it, let's go. And you have a lot of population who may not factor it in those terms, but a lot of people that are women do want a woman candidate.
Yeah, that's just like how many people went out to vote for Obama just because he was black. But see, I don't know what he stands for, but he's black.
I don't think they did because he was black. I think they did it more emphatically.
Because he was intact.
Because he was black. But I think the same thing with this. They vote more emphatically.
That's what I'm saying.
But the difference is, if these two quantities are so close to one another, then
they'll take the one that has a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's a man and a woman that are completely equal in regards to their policies, I'm going to go for the chick.
Yeah. Why would I go for the guy? I want to see the woman president.
And she's a little bit younger. This other old dude just had a heart attack.
Just had a heart attack. The guy had a heart attack.
I feel you.
Like, you can't. So, if that's what's happening, that hurts. That sucks your thing away. And here's another catch. Do you know, back maybe a month or two ago, in polls, consistently, when they asked, who's your second person, consistently, they would say Bernie Sanders, Warren supporters, and Biden supporters. Not now. Not now. The second choice becomes Warren. Second choice becomes Warren. Truly, yes, he can win his own campaign, but let's be honest. Be very honest. Do you believe that Bernie Sanders has a certain degree of morality in his head, in the way he operates in the world? I think the answer is yes. When he ran his campaign, when other campaigns wouldn't give the opposition a debate, Sanders, who was winning by like 60%, still went through the formal process of ensuring that his opponent in Vermont got a debate. That guy said all sorts of smears, and Sanders engaged in debate with that guy when he didn't have to. He has a certain morality about him and the way he operates. Morality is not absolute. I'm sorry. There's no absolute morality in this case. And we are talking about a game space. We're not talking about the way people just operate within the context of, familial relations or best interests and all this other stuff. They set rules to a game space, and your job is to exploit it. My issue here is that Bernie Sanders may have a morality that supersedes the game space, which is somewhat problematic. Meaning, opportunities that he may be able to take, he just doesn't take because he thinks that they're bad or that they're wrong. My secondary thought is, maybe he doesn't want to tarnish her in case he loses. Like I don't want to burn it down because there's a chance that I lose even if I burn it down. And I don't want to hurt her, who may be a tick to the left of what they currently have in the Democratic Party. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's possible that he's weighing the stuff and he comes to a different weighing mark. And that weighing mark may be, all right, when I weigh all this stuff, I prefer not to damage her. That's more important to me. That is infuriating. He should be able to burn the shit down. The responsibility of Sanders.
Burn it down.
Sanders' responsibility has nothing to do with Warren. That's my point. He has a responsibility to the individuals who are supporting him to burn the shit down. If he needs to burn the Democratic Party to the ground to get into office, then that's what he should do because that's what the people are paying him to do. I hope you understand what I mean.
I understand.
It is aggravating to watch him engage in a process where she apes him relentlessly throughout the contest. And he just stands there attacking Biden. And at a certain point you realize, dude, your issue is her. Your issue is her. If she wasn't in the race, he'd be winning. Seriously. If you add her tally to his, it's over Biden's tally. She's sucking away votes from him. There would be people who would vote for him clearly just because of their political leanings if she wasn't in the race. My point is, she is his biggest threat.
I get it.
And watching this take place, painful.
It's painful. Okay.
It's painful.
All right, we are behind on super chats, and
I'm
it's
sorry.
almost time to finish up.
But it was dramatically important to explain.
I know that. I understand. So, Audrey, thank you for the super chat. Audrey says, will Hillary run? Why is Tulsi tempting her? That's the same thing I saw when I saw Tulsi tweet. I was like, don't tell her, get her ass out here.
Would you care if she runs?
I want to punch her in the vagina.
Let me ask you this. Would it eat into Biden's totals?
You know, I'm still kind of iffy on what kind of support she would get.
Who, Clinton?
Yeah, because like even before it was like, well, everybody hates Clinton, but she still got the fucking nomination. You know what I mean? Like, and now it's like, well, everybody still hates Hillary.
But they also saw she lost. So reality shows.
I feel you. I don't know if that's enough
honestly,
for some people.
I think she has zero chance.
I mean,
and I think she will eat into Biden's totals.
I'm for her.
No, I agree with that. But I think the only person she'd hurt would be Joe Biden. That's the only person she'd hurt in that race. And in fact, the same effect that's taking place with Sanders and Warren would take place with Biden.
Those two corporate Democrats.
Yes. That would be fascinating. I'm sorry, that would be fascinating. I'm
so sick of her.
I am sick of her, but I would find that to be
sickening.
I would be massively curious about that just to see the effect that takes place. Also, if you want Sanders to win, splitting the vote total between Biden in the same way that's taking place. Because Sanders has to win over the split of the vote. Biden just runs. There's nobody splitting his vote total. You have a bunch of old, I don't want to say geriatrics, old Negroes. And I say the term as a technical term just because during the time in the 60s and the 50s, that's what they were called, Negroes. They were okay with that. And not because they wanted to be okay with it. It was imposed upon them. I'm just saying. The term was used, Negroes.
What are we talking about?
I'm trying to ground
all I hear is Negroes.
All
I hear is old Negroes.
I'm trying to ground what I'm saying in a certain reality.
It's not working.
I'm just saying, in the 50s, in the 40s, African Americans were called Negroes, right? There were other worse things, but Negroes was the passable term.
What are we even talking about?
My point is, there are a bunch of Negroes that are voting for Joe Biden, despite Joe Biden saying African Americans and other black people can't raise their kids. Those Negroes don't have no more kids, or those kids are grown. But, they let Joe Biden skate with that. Okay. Do you have any pride in yourself? I mean, come on. Joe Biden says you and your kids don't know how to raise their families. And that the government needs to send somebody to help you out.
With a record player.
And those Negroes, using the term in a literal sense from back then, just signatures, are still voting for him. This thing says that Joe Biden's support is essentially people like over 50 African American.
Okay.
That's his support.
All right.
We may put that asshole in the primary. It kills me. I know this doesn't bother you so much, but it bugs me because these people are fucking blind. Like honestly, I look at this in the same way that whites vote for Republicans that is not in their material interests. Same thing. It's just happening in a different party.
I feel you.
Not just that, it's a racial element to it where they just said, you don't know how to raise your kids. The paternal Joe Biden to help these good meeting black folks.
Joe ain't getting nowhere near my kids. I wouldn't let him watch my dog. All right, Marcus Will, he says Bernie doesn't want it. That's your answer.
What do you think? You never answered me.
I really hope not.
That's not an answer.
Do I think when Bernie Sanders is at home alone,
if it was,
you just fucking ask me an answer?
3 a.m. between you and your God, and God
I don't think
said,
you really want
God
me to
says,
maybe that's why I don't answer is because I don't think you really care what I have to say.
I do, but I just want to be very specific so you can know what you are answering. 3 a.m. between you and your God.
We've had this conversation.
And God comes and says, do you think Sanders is trying to win this? And he explains
and I'm so
why
glad
he's...
you fucking better be. Because he getting my damn money.
And God says that's not an answer. You haven't answered. I'm waiting for an answer. What do you think? You think he's
actually, I did earlier. I said I believe that he wants it. He just is very adamant about the way that he wants
Oh, right.
to go
You did
about
say
it.
that. I'm sorry. You did say that.
Yeah.
God, I hope that's not
Boo
it.
on you. All right, Natural
I hope
Progressives.
that's not it.
The Natural Progressive, thank you for the super chat. Natural Progressive says, just a quick note of support. It's been a while. Thank
Thanks,
you
man.
for the Natural Progressive. Trudy's going to punch you in the face.
Uh-oh.
Trudy says, when Bernie wins, Warren will be in the Senate.
Good.
That's
Good.
fine.
I'm wondering in the
Let her
Senate.
stay in the Senate.
I want her in the Senate.
Cool Blue 71.
And by the way, I've said nothing wrong about Sanders. I asked the question because I don't understand. That's all. It's like how I process the world in regards to how politics runs and how people function when they're in the game, especially because the environment creates the behavior in the game. And when I see somebody who's not acting in a way that, somebody would act within the game space. In chess, you did every fucking thing by hook or by crook to win that was within the game. That's allowed in the way you play and interact. Politics is no different. I mean, there's certain, you can't go too far in certain areas because people will see you as craven. You have to be, authenticity matters during this particular time frame where it was something that didn't necessarily matter prior. You have the lives of the politicians behind the scenes now, whereas, information and all that other stuff changes how people relate to one another and they care about authenticity. So you have to take all of that stuff into consideration when you function. But you do need to function in a way to maximize your getting further. All I'm saying is, when I don't see a campaign doing that, and by the way, that Nina Turner video got right many views because those people said, we have the same questions. No one ever asked those questions. Jordan Sheridan was talking to Nina Turner, and he didn't ask those questions. And I was like, why aren't you asking those questions? Now, I know I look at this differently. I look at this from the standpoint of, they're in a contest. They're doing what they need to do to win. They take certain positions and try to defend positions, or they even eschew certain facts in order to be able to attack the other person. They're in a contest. Why isn't he acting?
Okay,
in a way
we're
to
gonna move on
himself?
because I'm
I'm sorry.
Okay, Cool Blue 71.
plagues
Thank
me,
you
that's
for
all.
the super chat. He says, corporate Democratic Party establishment's number one goal is to not unseat Trump, but defeat Sanders and other progressives. It's partly why Hillary smeared Tulsi. Just yes or no, we're gonna move on. Just yes or no.
So, but it's not that simple, right? I mean, because there,
10-second answer.
It's
Go.
kind of yes, kind of no. I mean, put it this way, Nancy Pelosi is not going to be hurt by Trump being in office. She's probably going to get more money in taxes. Many of the people who are hollering about Trump, it's like they're not materially hurt by Trump in office, even though many of the people in the population are. Those people may not entirely care if Sanders loses to Trump. They just want to put that in the back. If Warren loses to Trump, what they're going to say is, well, you went too far to the left. We told you went too far to the left. It was your fault. And by the way, there were no Russians that influenced this election. You just lost. And so for 20 years, lefties will be put in the closet. They will be vilified as losing to Trump, just like we've been vilifying them losing to Clinton. The greatest pleasure in me was the first time I told somebody, you lost the reality shows.
Okay, and we have heard that 67 bajillion times.
Yeah, because it fills me with joy when I say that. Because we told Clinton she was going to lose and she lost. The other point, you cheated my guy. You're not getting my support because you cheated my guy. How can I give you any support at all from a philosophical standpoint of politics? If I'm supporting you, it's because you've done something to earn my support or warrant my support, and it is a travesty of democratic order for you to cheat my guy in a political race and I support you after. Yeah, I can't abide by that. On the other side, though, people know. Real people know. Well, I'm saying those real people will support Sanders, who are Democrats in that sense, even if they might have been Elizabeth Warren supporters, because they're true believers in the sense that he is the worst thing on the planet. So it's a little bit of both. I mean, and some people, yes, some people no. Some people, it's a political thing of putting people back and putting this notion of a left wing back, something to push them away, because in 4 years they'll get their shot again, and the thing will keep going.
All right, Cannabis Sativa, thank you for the super chat. Cannabis says, PMC wants to keep their cash. That's why they like Warren. Bernie could come after their money.
Yeah.
Woke, but don't mess with my money.
Yeah.
That's Warren supporters.
I've met those people, by the way. Like, they would say, we should be able to keep as much money as we want. And those type of arguments. They were white liberals. But they would care about identity. Like, I remember I said one day, yeah, somebody has to man up and he says, "Oh, my daughter may be offended by that language because, she's not a man and it means being strong and everything else," he will be the same person who says we should be able to make as much money as we can possibly make. He's the owner of the company, one of the people who run the company. I thought he was insane. I was like, so wait, you realize that money is not infinite, right? I mean, ultimately, if you're talking about accruing that much, you're getting that from somewhere.
Right.
And in which case, he called me a socialist and kept going.
You ready?
As long as
Next
we knew,
super chat.
both of us knew our class stuff. I'll put it that way. We know where we stood. Yeah, go for it.
Next super chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Next super chat is from Andrew Jones. Thank you. We're on a roll. Thank you for everybody giving super chats. I'm trying to grab some of the comments in between as well, but super chats are coming through. So Andrew Jones says, Jamal, I agree with you 110%. By the way, I think you guys are adorable.
Oh, thank you.
Somebody said we're all drunk now. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
One more. Bob Ramirez. Oh gosh.
Go ahead. Do it. Do it.
Do you see my face?
What's Bob going to say?
This is about to derail us. Bob Ramirez says, seen the Expanse season 4 JFK trailer?
No, I haven't.
Okay, moving on. All right, we'll put that down.
So I've seen The Expanse season 4. I've seen one of the trailers. But I didn't understand it. They landed on a planet. You saw this one, right? All of them. There's the
No.
I can't think of the lead character's name, but the white guy is blonde, black hair. He's a good-looking guy for the most part. They're leading the team just down, and they walk to some kind of plantation. And it ends, and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck that means.
I don't know. So
but
watch
there's a
that one with
JFK
JFK.
trailer.
Cannabis Sativa, thank you for another super chat. He says, wonks don't win. See 2000, 2004, 1988, and 2016.
Al Gore was a wonk.
Wonk.
Al Gore was a wonk. I mean, yeah. I mean, you have this. Who does she appeal to? I mean, right? I mean, what is America, and who does she appeal to? And does she have the capability of standing toe-to-toe with Trump? I think she's going to be derided relentlessly. I think she's going to be mocked. I think she's going to be called Pocahontas. I think they're going to bring up the fact that
it's going to be
you said
ugly.
you were a Native American. It's going to be ugly. It is not going to... This, egalitarian campaign that you guys are running in the Democratic Party, I hate to tell you this, that is not the shit that they're going to deal with when they get out. Like, he is going to hit her viciously. Like, I don't think she's ready for that. Like, it's one thing if we're talking and we're equals. It's another thing if I'm pretending you're not my equal. And the public is looking at that, and there's a part of them that is giggling. The Native American thing, the Pocahontas thing, is funny. I'm sorry. It's racist, but it's funny. And because of that, the fact that it's racist is going to get ignored. You can be racist as long as you're funny, believe it or not. The public gives it a pass. I'm just saying that's one of those cases that they're going to relentlessly mock her with. He may even use that on a debate stage. Like, he might be like, Pocahontas over here. Like, it's going to be bad. Do you remember when Jeremy Corbyn first took power as leader of Labor? And they mocked him as being illegitimate to be in that position. And they did so until he won an election, in which case he was strutting peacock, and the mocking doesn't necessarily make sense because the guy just ate into your numbers. Like, her issue is honesty. And he's going to hit her on honesty on a different level.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly.
Not the Medicare for All thing. And for fuck's sake, he might even bring up Medicare for All. He might even say, you don't really believe Medicare for All in your heart. Here's Harry Reid saying you don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, it may be across the board. I mean, do you honestly think Trump cares about hypocrisy? He doesn't care about hypocrisy. He's going to use whatever he can to hit her. I am worried about that. I just think Bernie matches up better in that than a teacher.
Yeah.
Even though I would love her to be one of Sanders' attack people. If that makes sense. I don't want her sitting there explaining policy in a debate, because debates are not entirely about policy. I mean, there are areas of it where, yes, you need to nail that shit when it's, when you get in your wheelhouse, hit it. But in other situations, you need to know situations where it's not about policy. It's about how you get your stuff across. And I got to be honest, I don't believe, A, that she believes the stuff, and B, that she can ever enact it, because I don't think she has a movement backing her on it. So I'm dodgy with her across the board, not to mention when she loses. This is going to be... Imagine on the day Clinton lost, But imagine this, not from the perspective of a Bernie supporter, but of a Clinton supporter. Think of how it feels to be near Tandon on that day. Think of how it feels to be Peter Dow. Think of how all of these people, Harvey Weinstein, think of how it felt for him when he was perving out on some woman. He was masturbating to a plant and he found out that, oh my God, she lost. And then it shrivels up. That's the thing that shrivels up. I mean, think of all of these Clinton supporters in your life the day after. I didn't vote for Clinton. I voted for Jill Stein. And so for me, I was like, all right, I don't know what this is going to be about, but fuck, she lost. I said she was going to lose. You cheated my guy and you lost. Ha! That's how I felt, honestly. If I'm being brutally honest, I was a little weirded out, but triumphant. And when I went into work the next day, it was almost like bad sex. The Hillary supporters couldn't even look me in the eye. It was like you was with a woman and something happened that was just so out there that the next day you're just not looking at each other. You're just, you're tending to the kids. You kiss her on the cheek, but you're not making eye contact. Something happened that was, oh God, utterly, destabilizing to my person. And that's kind of how I was. I looked at the owner of the company the very next day and he looks at me and just puts his head down and goes in his office. The other guy who told me that Clinton was going to win by over 300 votes and was supposed to wear my Bernie shirt because I thought he was utterly insane. I didn't even think she was going to win that night. I couldn't see her votes. That's all. But damn sure, not 300 votes, he was supposed to wear the shirt. He looks at me across the room and also, like his brother, looks down and just walks into the room. And a little part of me felt joy. Like an unmitigated, unknown, and not expected joy. Pure, innocent.
Okay, begin.
Joy.
All the descriptive words.
It's joy.
All right.
Marcus. I felt beautifully about that because I told them, and they mocked me. I was the only Bernie supporter. I told them that Jeremy Corbyn would be prime minister. That's gotten dicey. But I also told them that has a chance of losing. And I think I was talking to the guy who owned it, and I was like, look, man, you got to make these arguments about class. He was like, I'm a liberal. I don't want anybody to be racist. Fuck this about my money. Fuck this about my money. And she lost. It was funny to me.
Okay, Marcus Will, thank you for the super chat. Marcus says, could you support Tulsi 100%
No.
if she runs in 2024?
Depends on who else runs. I mean, right? That's always... It's not it's a contest. Have political wants. These guys are candidates within the context of a contest. It depends on who's in the race, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
There could be better people.
Trudy says, thank you, Trudy, for the super chat. Trudy says, BC probably told Warren Republicans can get things done as Democrats. Because Warren used to be a Republican.
Yeah, she did. It was funny. Somebody was defending that. I don't remember who it was. Somebody was defending that.
Jared Newhouse, thank you for the super chat. Jared,
and by the way, they relentlessly attack Tulsi Gabbard for her childhood, but they give Warren a pass on the Republican shit in total. They always bring up her childhood. They say, oh, she used to be homophobic. She used to be this. She used to be that. And they give Warren an entire pass on she used to be a Republican. That doesn't make sense to me. How do you ignore one but raise up the fact of the other? I had to tell you this. There are other cultures. And in some of those cultures, sometimes they're homophobic, sometimes they're bigoted, sometimes they're racist. If you are a child brought up in that culture, you often put on and don the mantle that you grew up into. At some point, you grow out of it, hopefully, sometimes. But if you have nothing to tie it to, meaning her as an adult, and you keep bringing that up, that looks dicey to me, as opposed to Warren, where they just whitewash. Emphasis on white. Keep going. What's next?
Can I continue?
Go for it.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I was adding on to what you were saying.
Okay, I'm going.
Go for it.
Right. I'm going to go. I'm ready to chat.
It's getting late, baby. Keep it.
I'm going for it. Okay. Jared Newhouse says, has Bernie Sanders defended Tulsi Gabbard from Hillary Clinton's Russian sympathizer allegations? We're not going to go back.
Yes.
Go back to the beginning of the video. But yes, we
Bam.
did cover that. There was a tweet where he just put out today.
Tulsi Gabbard has put her life on the line to defend this country. People can disagree on issues, but it is outrageous for anyone to suggest that Tulsi is a foreign asset. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. I called it weak. I did call it weak. I came out and said, this is weak. You got to defend your girl. She might be Secretary of State,
Is that
for
what
God's
you
sake.
posted on
No,
Twitter?
that's what I said.
You got to defend your girl.
You got to defend your girl. And here we go. He came out. He defended his girl. Good job.
All right. Can you check Streamlabs really quick before we finish the show?
Yes. Because I'm starting to drag ass. I wasn't feeling great, but I wanted to do the show.
If
Streamlabs,
you were not here early, we're just under 300 people.
That's good.
Thank you guys for joining us for Contributor Appreciation.
Just
If
one point.
you have
One
not
point, one point.
already,
Wait,
if you
wait.
have not already and you're enjoying the content, give the video a thumbs up. If you are contributing to Patreon or PayPal, Super Chat, Streamlabs, or if you are just here, thank you for
Hi, we're American Jews. We really love the way you're fighting corruption. We'd really love it if you also push the Israeli government to end the occupation.
Yes.
Excellent.
So I'm there.
She says, yes, I'm all in. And they were like, yes, Elizabeth Warren is backing us to end corruption and to press for a two-state or some solution in Israel. Elizabeth Warren, pretty much immediately, or not immediately, I'm sorry, then this same group. E. Warren told us this summer that she stands with us against the occupation. Now her campaign is telling right-wing groups like Dim Majority for Israel that her Jewish director of progressive partnership is outside the tent when it comes to Israel and our community. I hate to tell you this, you could have looked back and listened to anything Elizabeth Warren has said on this issue and realized Elizabeth Warren was out. You would have been out the tent on that issue. She is effectively in close ties with Netanyahu every as much as bit as Obama, if not more so, in the way that she's talked about this issue. Yes, you were out the tent. And her, by the way, her saying, yes, I'm with you, what does that mean? What does that mean? Nobody knows what that means. Elizabeth Warren can have all sorts of meanings for that. Yes, you're being shafted, and yes, you should have asked that question in a better way, and yes, you should have followed up on that to clear out any cupboards that she was going to hide in order to kind of make that work. You're being bullshitted on a campaign trail when you took it. Sad. Be more cynical.
I'm sorry, I stopped listening after you cut my audio off.
Well, they had to be able to hear the other audio for the Israel segment. That was going to be our last segment. Otherwise, they couldn't hear that segment. Right? I mean, that's true, right? I mean, as an absolute, that is true. No one could hear this segment. Oh, we didn't get to this.
I am leaving.
Fuck.
You finish up. Do the video separate.
Yeah, I do the video separate. It's the way he ends this. He turns to people and he says, look, find a stranger that you don't know. Somebody who you don't know. And he said, are you willing to fight for that stranger in the same way you'll be willing to fight for yourself? That's a powerful argument. That's almost like a spiritual politics of sorts.
And people who were there, they were like, oh,
Yeah.
just sent chills up my spine. And
Yeah.
everybody was like, yes. Now, are they going to do it? That's another question. But
the answer is yes. Those people believe that. I mean, they're like, it's an ideological belief. This notion of, do you care about other people in a similar fashion that you care about yourself? Yes, I believe you're going to care about yourself more, but do you also care about the larger world around you?
could you care about the next person?
Yes.
About humanity.
Meaning, just because I'm not gay doesn't necessarily mean I can't stand up for gay rights. Just
Right.
because I'm not, a woman doesn't mean I can't fight for women's rights. Meaning, a fair thing across from the standpoint of identity, and also, let's deal with this class stuff. Let's get rid of billionaires, and let's make sure that everybody have the things that they need for a decent society. Because I would wager you this: crime goes down, the life expectancy goes up 16%, 16 years younger. The poor die 16 years younger. It's a social pressure. Everybody just under the richest person dies a little bit sooner. Isn't that weird? It's almost like in the way we function, there's a social pressure that is on all of us in the way that we engage. Not to mention the medical stuff that becomes up where people don't get the health care. Like people say they don't want to go to the doctor because they don't want another bill. You can relate to that one.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Other people who don't make as much. All those things. Different world. That's his argument. And his point is, from an ideological standpoint, can you fight for somebody else in the way that you fight for yourself? I thought that was amazing. I like just the framing of it. It's a moral thing, which sometimes gets dicey in politics, but it is also something to be said of that person is you.
Adam Bell said I should pee on you.
What?
Something about asserting dominance.
That's kind of nasty, Adam. Whatever you're into. And look, I'm not shaming anybody, right? But, that's R. Kelly stuff, man.
All right.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's all we got, right?
Yeah. Because it's
running out of steam.
All right. Guys, thank you. We've been somewhat
there was
all over the place today.
Streamlab. Yeah, your people didn't like how you cut my mic off or how you
what?
Cut my audio off.
What?
Adam Bell said, "Don't kink shame me."
Ain't nobody kink shaming. I just said I'm not kink shaming. All right.
There's only one.
Right here.
Right?
I hope a better candidate doesn't mean give me more free shit. We need somebody with knockout power willing to punch up, not just UBI. Doesn't mean give me more free shit. The catch here is you're always paying for it. Yeah. It's never free, It's just you as a society come together and say, these are the things that we want and deem. And by the way, this stuff isn't real. These are just myths. You choose how you want to organize your society. You can choose as a religious tenet that you work for the other person as much as you work for yourself. That could be a cultural means of functioning. It just so happens just not. But it doesn't mean it can't be. I guess I'm saying it's not arbitrary because there are small incremental things in our society and the way that we've grown, from the time of humanity, just from the dawn of man to now. But it doesn't have to be this way. Like, this is random. And in some degree, random is the wrong word for it. I guess I'm making the point that it doesn't have to be this way. This is not real. And we can organize ourselves in any particular way. The catch becomes the consciousness of the public that says, this is okay. Let's go with it.
Okay.
So in my head, all right, we need to make changes that are beyond incremental but are not so terrifying to the public, or the public flips out. And in my case, Sanders is the weapon for that. He does that. He scares the shit out of them. So that's what I want. That's the guy. I don't see the point in, going with the echo, the copy. Guys, thank you for showing up. We've been all over the place. Please give your spill. I'll leave you alone to your devices. Do you, boo? Do you think?
Me?
Yeah, do you think? I'm not touching the mic or anything else. I apologize for cutting your mic off.
Why are you touching the mouse?
I apologize for cutting your mic off. You were not going into the next story, and I needed to kind of assert the next story.
Assert. Okay.
But I do apologize. And you can do your thing now.
At the end.
Go for it.
Everybody's gone now.
Well, do it for the people that are left.
Well, I'm not motivated now. I've lost my spunk. I feel violated and disrespected. Actually, no, it's not that serious. Thank you for joining us for today's Contributor Appreciation Show. If you do not know, today is the day, not necessarily today, because usually it's on Sundays, but this show is the show once a week that Jamarl takes out to give appreciation for everyone who supports the channel. Streamlabs, Super Chats, PayPal, and of course the Patreon platform where patrons donate.
We're Patreons. Oh no, it's patrons on Patreon.
That's what I just
No. I was saying you're right. I was making more emphatic your correctness. Go ahead, babe. It's getting late.
So yes, thank you. If you are not supporting monetarily, just make sure that you are subscribed. If you enjoy the comment, give it a thumbs up. Tell your mom and tell your friends. But if you do want to be a patron supporter on the Patreon platform, follow the link in the description box below. Every $1 little helps, and you can commit to as little as $1 a month so that Jamarl can keep giving content. It doesn't help me at all, but He'll appreciate it. No,
Don't believe that. Yeah, don't believe that.
So thank you for watching, if nothing else. And I'm going to unplug the mic. So we're going to say goodnight. Peace.
Thanks all.